Hey everyone, it's Valkrin. This is the first video in a series breaking down the gameplay of exact timings and moments during a game. This video is going to be focused mainly on the dynamics of bottom lane from levels 1 to 2. More specifically, why exactly it seems like bottom lane in solo queue is always very one-sided very early in the game. The three main topics I'm going to discuss include the frequent mistakes made just prior to laning phase, the significance of being first to level 2 bottom lane, and utilizing the potential of pushing the lane. Bottom lane is the most timing-based lane in the game. This is because that everything the lane centers around is so fragile. The AD carry and support are expected to give the best leash, so oftentimes a jungler will start on the buff closest to the bottom lane. Problems start to arise when one bottom lane is leashing while the other doesn't have to leash their jungler. Two opportunities are given to the bottom lane that doesn't have to leash. One, the position to intercept the other bottom lane as they come from leashing the lane. Two, the option of fast pushing the lane. Imagine bottom lane like a well-oiled machine. It's expected to perform a task the same way every time until it needs to be repaired or it breaks. These two opportunities from the other bottom lane are potentially a wrench being thrown into your machine, threatening to break the machine before the game is even truly started. This brings us to the start of the approximate timings of bottom lane. The left sides are the timings of an AD carry and support leashing a jungler, and the right side are the general timings of bottom lane. Generally, bottom lane finishes leashing at the 2-minute mark, but won't reach the lane until a varying time between 2:11 and 2:16. The key thing to note is that the minion waves will collide at 2:03, meaning that if the other bottom lane isn't leashing, then they can push uncontested until 2:11 to 2:16, or have time frame to invade or bush camp. Bottom lanes have safe routes and unsafe routes, from leashing to their corresponding lanes. I'll go through each individually to show exactly the routes that I'm talking about. This is a route a purple team AD carry and support would take after leashing the jungler at the golem buff. This route is classified as unsafe because of the vulnerabilities an enemy lane could exploit. For one, an enemy bottom lane could intercept in the river and cut off the route, making the purple side bottom lane make a choice of fighting their way in the lane or having to backtrack and get the lane much later. The other is the bush camping potential in the river bush. While this route is very unsafe, most purple side bottom lanes will take this route because it is the fastest to lane. The alternate route is going through the tri-bush and then through the lane. This route only takes 3.5 seconds more to get to the auto attack range of the first minion and provides a lot more safety. Blue side has its unsafe routes as well. A blue team's bottom lane will leash red buff and majority of the time proceed through the tri-bush into river and then into lane. This is without a doubt the most unsafe route a blue side bottom lane can take. That tri-bush controls the entire corner's vision and access to lane. An enemy bottom lane that isn't leashing can very easily take control of that area between 1:55 and 2 minutes, the time period that the blue side bottom lane would be leashing, and first blood the blue team's bottom lane coming from red buff leash. While blue side has potentially the most unsafe route to lane from leash, it also has potentially the safest route to lane from leash. Going directly from red buff leash and going through lane leaves almost zero vulnerabilities to exploit. This route takes approximately 4 more seconds to reach the first minion in the lane than the unsafe route. The absolute biggest vulnerability that can be exploited and used to cause a bottom lane to feed seemingly uncontrollably is reaching level 2 before the opposing bottom lane does. If done correctly, the entire bottom laning phase will be decided in those brief moments between levels 1 and 2. I feel like very few people know how many minions it takes to reach level 2 in the duo lane, so I'll discuss that first. Level 2 requires 280 XP. Melee minions yield 38 experience. Caster minions yield 19 experience. Note that the amount of XP minions give scales as the game progresses, but at level 1 this is how much they give. So to get to level 2 in bottom lane, it takes the entire first wave of experience, 3 melee, 3 caster, and the next 3 melee minions of the second wave to reach level 2. That's 9 minions, 6 melee, 3 caster. Bam, you're level 2. Now your offensive capabilities have been doubled. You go from having collectively 2 abilities between AD carry and support at level 1 to having collectively 4 abilities. This is a huge deal because a lot of supports get their base crowd control at level 2. For example, Blitzcrank will have pull and knock up at level 2. That crowd control won't increase more than that except from the ultimate. But from levels 1 to 2, Blitzcrank basically doubled the amount of crowd control possible from Blitzcrank from the base abilities. Same goes for other supports like Leona and Thresh. Their kill potential doubles at level 2. You don't even have to have a bottom lane with crowd control to win a 2v2 if you reach level 2 and they're still level 1. Leveling up also increases your base stats like HP, armor, and attack damage. So if you're level 2 and they're level 1, your champions will just flat out be stronger. This is where the feeding comes in. I played a lot of games, and most of them had an extremely one-sided bottom lane. This is generally caused because one bottom lane gets baited into a 2v2 without realizing the enemy bottom lane is about to reach level 2 before them. Going back to the jungle leashing's involvement in bottom lane, if one bottom lane isn't leashing, then they have the option of getting to lane early and pushing quickly. This can cause a lot of problems because it means they will most likely reach level 2 before the leash in bottom lane reaches level 2. This can lead to a bottom lane becoming extremely one-sided quickly if the bottom lane that didn't leash is able to all-in the opposing bottom lane at level 2 and get first blood. This leads to the next topic of why pushing the lane gives more defensive and offensive power. I think everyone at one point has looked at a deathlog after fighting someone in a minion wave and realized that minions do a lot of damage. But just how much damage do minions deal? Well, at level 1, melee minions deal 12 damage and casters deal 24. Keep in mind that minions do scale as the game goes on, but their comparative power to champions decreases as the game goes on. With that said, minions dictate everything about who has the power in the lane during the laning phase. Minions can do a lot of damage early game, and you have to use this to win the lane. Every high-low laner in the game has one question going through their head during the laning phase. Can I win an all-in from this point? That one question controls players' thoughts and behaviors in the lane. You can abuse this by pushing the lane and building up a bigger minion wave. Pushing gets a bad reputation because if you don't take the necessary precautions, then the enemy jungler will come and ruin your day. But theoretically speaking, bottom lane should be the safest lane in the game from jungle ganks. You have a support that should be starting at least 1 ward and 2 champions giving the potential of 2 warding totems. Pushing the lane bottom decreases the offensive potential of the opposing bottom lane and increasing your own. A bigger minion wave in front of you means it's going to be more difficult for them to land skill shots like a thresh hook on you, and it also significantly decreases their potential to all in and win because of how much damage your minions are going to do to them early in the game. So by pushing the lane in anticipation of getting to level 2 first, you're not only most likely going to reach level 2 before your opponents, but you're dictating control over the lane. So what are the solutions? Get the lane on time, taking safer routes. If the opposing bottom lane gets to bottom lane first and is fast pushing, sometimes you just have to back off and let it completely push to your tower. The worst thing you can do is try and fight when they're seconds from level 2. Minion counting will let you know exactly how close you are and how close they are to level 2, so use this to your advantage. If you want to ask me questions directly, follow me on my social medias or subscribe to my channel, or do both. Since YouTube has butchered the comment system on YouTube, I do most of my outreaching through Facebook and Twitter. Stay tuned for more high quality content on my channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck with your solo queue games.